Hey everyone, welcome to the Dales Report podcast, and happy to be joined once again to the podcast, Daniel Cohen, CEO of PharmaDrug. Happy New Year. How's things?
Happier.
Yeah. How was the holiday season? I know it's the third week of January, but here we are, and I know we talked off camera before we started this interview that we could see some improvement in the whole biotech field, more specifically psychedelics. What are you seeing and hearing as we kick off this year? Because it's been pretty flat so far.
Yeah, I'm actually quite excited.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. Our stock's starting to move a little bit, and
Yeah.
truth is, we haven't even put out any news. So you're definitely starting to see some interest in these junior biotech psychedelics, and we've been really, really hard at work, and we're going to talk about that today. But the next 8 weeks, we're going to see consistent news flow coming out of us starting next week, because we've been working so hard on so many different fronts, and that's going to start to show itself. Developments, updates, new things happening, results. There's a lot going on, and we've been planning and working hard over the past 3 weeks. And I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to do. And I'm hearing it from some of my colleagues from other companies out there too, that they're all pretty excited. So I think it's going to be a good time.
There's a lot of people out there in this space working their butts off. And when you look at the infrastructure on how much has developed in the industry as a whole over this past 6-9 months, it's been massive.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people right now I know are frustrated from the whole biotech field and specifically psychedelics. But when we turn the corner, do you see rapid growth knowing the amount of infrastructure that has taken place specifically, let's say, for your company over the last, say, 6-9 months?
Most definitely. First of all, we're in biotech in general. Biotech as a sector was horrible last year, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to happen. That's going to change this year, because there's been so much advancement being done that the market's not going to be able to ignore it forever.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of psychedelic companies out there, but some have done some really good work, and that's going to start to get noticed. We're doing some work, and we're going to talk about that today. And I think that's really going to get noticed, and we're really going to be able to move that forward over the next few months. Cepharanthin, though, our straight, biotech effort is really blossoming, and I'm very excited to tell you guys about that today as well.
Let's find out with some of the work that you've been doing. You announced that Cepharanthin showed positive results in its preclinical cancer study evaluating the effectiveness of the compound alone or when used in combination with standard of care chemotherapy. So how will the study move forward based on the results that you've seen so far?
So let's step back for a second, because what we have is Cepharanthin, right? And we're using Cepharanthin for 2 different avenues.
Okay.
For cancers, for rare cancers.
Yeah.
And also for COVID. We'll talk about the COVID. But because I don't, it's not just COVID. It's viruses in general, right?
Okay.
It could be SARS, MERS, could be what the next big virus is going to be. And the reality is that the world needs more antiviral pills. Everyone agrees with that. So even if we're, where we're going with COVID, it doesn't matter. We need more pills.
So the news that came out last week regarding Pfizer and their antiviral pills, you think that's a trend to watch for and will come over the coming months?
Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. Oh yeah, we need more. It's not like Pfizer's it and that's it. That's great. I love that Pfizer came out. I love that Pfizer is getting used now. But anyone that knows, about viruses knows that we need more antiviral pills.
Yeah.
So there's a lot coming. But to just step back for a second, one of the major things that we had with the pre-IND meeting with the FDA was that, there's 2 things that you got to look at when you're trying to start a clinical trial with the FDA. And that's the actual sickness, the indication that you're going after. But also you have to prove the fact that you have a real pill or a real medicine, right? The majority of clinical trials that end up failing actually fail because of the CMC. The CMC is chemistry, manufacturing, control. The ability to produce a pharmaceutical grade pill with precision. And one of the best results that we got out of our IND meeting with the FDA was on Cepharanthin CMC. That's huge, because whether we're going the route of cancer or whether we're going the route of COVID, you need to button up the CMC. And that was one of our best results from the FDA. We've hired a specialist in CMC to start that program forward. So regardless of the cancer, which cancer, COVID, other viruses, we need to move Cepharanthin along. And so what you're going to see us do, we've been hard at work there. What you're going to see us do over this year is produce a pharmaceutical grade batch of Cepharanthin that will be prepared to be able to give to humans, right?
Right.
So it's producing the GMP grade. It's doing all those off-the-shelf tests that are required by the FDA. We already know what they all are. We're lining them all up. We're going to produce that batch. We're going to do all those tests, and we're going to have the pill itself ready for a clinical trial. So that's the first thing that we've been working on, that we're going to get news on, and we're going to get clarity on, and we're going to see continuous development on this year to be able to prepare Cepharanthin for clinical trials.
So you talked like it. That's how important, I guess, is that through the FDA and first steps. Were you was it you pronounced it was CMC? Was it again?
Yeah, CMC, chemistry, manufacturing, control. Yeah.
Okay.
It's extremely important. Like I said, a good majority of clinical trials end up failing because of the CMC. I mean, you could produce a molecule in a lab that has some efficacy in a dish, but that doesn't mean you can produce a pill that's pharmaceutical grade. Like every pill of Tylenol is exactly the same, right?
So when I hear
and I know exactly how it breaks down, right?
I'm talking to investment. Well, I'm talking to investment communities, and it seems like Cepharanthin is gaining more and more momentum. I think as we start to see the rollout of, and I know this isn't specifically just for COVID, it's also for cancers too, which is some promising early stage results. But when I look at this and you look at the importance and how it's performed so far, and it is gaining momentum, do you think the drug can prove effective against this virus, especially as we start to learn more and more about how to obviously combat against the virus with antiviral drugs?
I do. I mean, there's been lots of tests done by other groups. We're now doing our own that have shown efficacy on different variants of COVID, have shown efficacy on SARS, have shown efficacy on MERS. So it's shown like real efficacy in trials with several different types of viruses. And so we'll have developments on this because, like I said, we need, from following the FDA meeting, we're following the path to prepare the Cepharanthin. We're going to do some more work on our own. We're actually teaming up with someone. We'll have news about that next month. To be able to produce our own batch of results on Cepharanthin with COVID. And we're very excited about that, and we're pretty confident. And so we'll see developments on that next month. Which you and I,
as we said at the top here, last 6-9 months, a lot of work that's been taking place. We talk about the news that we just mentioned as well, which is very promising. But one that can't be forgotten, obviously, is your clinical treatment trial agreement with Johns Hopkins University, which is big in itself, to conduct clinical study comparing acute and enduring effects of DMT and other potently active molecules. What's the feedback that you're hearing more and more as we try to re-educate people on DMT? Because, this is a compound that's gaining a lot of interest related to psychedelics because the ongoing effects of like it being a lot of shorter duration period versus say psilocybin. But where is the trial and partnership going next, and what's in store, obviously heading in here to 2022 pertaining to that with Johns Hopkins?
So in terms of JHU, Johns Hopkins, the way it's structured with them is that they're the ones who actually conduct the clinical trial, right? So they're working on the IND submission for the FDA right now. So whether it gets finished next month or 2 months from now, I'm not sure. But we're in constant contact with them. They're going to submit to the FDA. They're going to get the approval, and then we'll start working with them on the clinical trial. So that's going to be moving forward. I'm extremely excited about that because I've talked about this before. One of the things that the psychedelic sector really needs is you got to work from both ends.
Which means
meaning that you could say, hey, we know anecdotally that it can help with depression. Let's start some clinical trials and let's show that in a clinical trial setting that it can work on depression. That's needed. But we also need to understand why. What is the actual chemistry, that goes on in the body to create that mechanism of action that creates that result.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things we're going to be doing with Johns Hopkins. We're going to be taking DMT, and we're going to take another psychedelic substance. We're not mentioning it just simply because we want it to be a blind comparative study. And so we're going to be doing it at different doses on human beings and switching the drug as well. So we'll be able to have DMT at different doses. We'll be able to have it compared with the other drug at another point in time with different doses, and be able to do the psychological assessment, but also do the brain scanning to literally see what happens when you take these drugs, which receptors get hit, what happens once the receptors get hit, and what's the chain reaction, the physiology that happens in the body or in the brain that produces these results. And it's understanding that process that can help open the door to so many different things. And so that's the project, that's the study we're working on with JHU. I can't think of a better group to do that with, right? So we're really excited about that. But
Yeah,
there's a lot coming, you know, I'll let you ask your next question, but we also have our own DMT program that we got to talk about at some point.
which means let's talk about that.
Terasaki is the group that we're working with. So we're like, the sleeves are rolled up. Like Paul, our chief scientific officer, is very busy on that right now. So we actually got 2 molecules. Remember, we're going to be using, or we're looking to use DMT or a DMT reformulation, an analog, a version of DMT to treat glaucoma. Right. So we've already done the test and we've shown that it's non-toxic. So that's good. But we're first going to prove it out in the dish in different levels, in different ways, and in different cell types. And then once we figure out which one of the substances, the compounds that we want to use, and we get the results from the dish, then we'll do an animal study. That will happen probably in the second quarter. And then we'll develop with Terasaki, and that's their expertise, a special device to have a controlled release, controlled, consistent release of it in the eye so that it can treat the glaucoma properly. So we've been tinkering right now with, to be honest, we ended up ordering a third compound. So we're actually working with them right now. We're getting results. We're looking at the differences. We're compiling all the information, because what we want to do at first when we're doing these studies in the dish, we want to pick which one we're going to go with. You know, so you got to look at how efficacious, you know, how strong it is, how long it lasts, how well it reacts with the body, all of those things. And we're knee deep in just compiling that information right now. We'll start putting out results in the next few weeks. And then from there on, there's going to be a constant flow of results and developments on our program for DMT and glaucoma. So it's going to be extremely exciting for us. So there's a lot going on the DMT side for us. So
the aim is to develop a novel ocular drug delivery platform to treat eye diseases using DMT analogs as a lead drug. So will these analogs be similar in structure to DMT without the high? And I guess, are you confident the study will show significant reduction in glaucoma?
Yeah, we're pretty confident we're going to find that efficacy, because there's already literature. There's been studies done. Problem was that, you know, some of the people that did it in the past administered it orally as opposed to topically, and so we were like, well, why don't we do it topically at sub-psychotropic levels so that you don't have to worry about people getting high. And you want to just focus on treating the actual disease. But then you got to want to make sure that it's not it's not abrasive and doesn't cause reactions in the eye. And so that's what we're tinkering with. We know the DMT is effective. From studies done by others. So, but what we're trying to do is find the best way to actually use it in practice. And so that's finding the right formulation that will have the best strength, the longest lasting effect. And then we're going to develop that device that's going to have that slow release in the eye. So you want a proper delivery technology to be able to administer it. That's one of the problems with glaucoma. There are drops out there that people use. People forget to put them in. You don't put it in when you're sleeping. So the pressure comes back. And people continue to go blind every year from glaucoma. So if we can have a device that constantly, right, puts it even while you're sleeping, then we think we're gonna end up having a very unique product.
So when you say device, how exactly would that work?
There's different things that you can do, whether it's a contact lens or whether it's a plug that you put in the eye, like something you put in the eye that it's not invasive, that just continuously leaks out a tiny bit, right?
That'd be incredible, especially if you're
Yeah,
not feeling it and using it, right?
yeah, you won't feel it.
When you look at this industry and the data that's coming out with some of these compounds,
Yeah.
without looking at your career and what you've been involved with, you've got a lot of energy here today. You're pretty excited, obviously, with the new year that, is around the corner. The stock has performed rather well in the last couple of weeks, but when we look at the investment community, if you can communicate right now, and they probably have a lot of questions just with regards to things being flat for quite some time.
Yeah.
What can you say the next 2-3 months? You're excited. What are you saying to your investor base right now? The reasons why, outside of the work that you've done, do you think that this industry turns for the better in the next couple of months here?
I do. I'm pretty excited about biotech. I'm pretty excited about psychedelics within biotech, and I'm speaking to a lot of my other colleagues, and it sounds like they're doing good work as well, which is great. I want lots of companies to be doing good work, but we've been hard at work, and a lot of last year was buying Serio, was getting Cepharanthin started, was developing our own strategy for psychedelics, which was DMT. So we did so much of the legwork last year, and we're really we're going to start knocking things off. Checklist done,
Yeah.
done, done,
Yeah.
done, done. That's going to happen at an accelerated pace this year.
And is that where the
I already
main
know what we're going to be able to tell the market. And I know what you're seeing, my excitement, because I already know what we're doing.
right?
And that's going to be unfolded to the market over the next 2-3 months. And I think the market's going to be very excited about it. I think we're creating a lot of value.
We had a podcast recently, and we had one of the CEOs in the space on. He was talking about how when there's one big pharma announcement that happens, you're going to see a lot domino effect and a lot more of that happen.
Yeah.
Conversations I continue to have is more and more institutions are very impressed with the data and the footprint that's taking place. Companies will have to obviously provide what is the footprint and game plan to getting from point A to point B. So when you talk about a lot of your biomedical side and the psychedelics portion, is that where a lot of your attention and focus will be moving forward here into 2022?
A lot, but
Yeah.
I can't downplay the Cepharanthin.
Yeah.
I'm extremely excited about that. This is a drug that's been in use for 70 years, but was always under the cover because of its low bioavailability. And the trials we've already started on our own with cancer has been extremely impressive. The animal study is underway. That's already happening. So we're going to get the results, and we're doing it on 2 cancers, right?
Yeah.
And we've already working with a patent lawyer to file some patents on some of the studies that we can't file a patent on esophageal cancer. I mean, we have orphan drug designation, so that by means that it's already known, but we have that protection from the FDA. So that's going to be our lead cancer. But there's another 1 or 2 cancers that we're working on. So that's a huge potential. And like I said, we're going to have a development on the COVID side that's going to really be show some kind of a bit of a stamp of approval over the next month. So that's all I'll say on that front. But there's a lot coming on the Cepharanthin side. So yes, we're very focused on psychedelics, but Cepharanthin is the crown jewel, to be honest.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Listen, I appreciate the update. Lots going on, to say the least, for sure. But this has been incredible. But it's amazing, some of these repurposed drugs and how this actually could be something that, oh man, put the dollar value on something that actually can help you with COVID.
Yeah.
And not to mention, just you look at society in general, especially here in Canada. Kids finally go back to school last week. What do we get? About 5 feet of snow poured on us. It's like we can't get a win, right?
It's been a tough time.
I know
it has been.
But man, if this is something can come through, just think, and then we look at the small cap space and how it's starting to trend. The NASDAQ has been down a little bit, but small caps are trending upwards. So I think as you continue to push research, data, and a lot of the stuff that, what you're focusing on proves to be promising, which it is, where does that lead you? So anyways,
I think it's going to be a good year for small cap, micro caps, and it's going to be a good year for biotech / psychedelics. We're not going to bother going into why, but I think a lot of people share that opinion.
It's great. Daniel, happy New Year again. Let's keep in touch, okay?
You too.
All right, take care.